Volatility you're seeing post Nvidia earnings?
Yeah, we are seeing the shares kind of pull back here, down about 3.5%. This is exactly what we've seen over the last couple of quarters. So this is actually not really that surprising. I think what you are seeing right now is a readjustment in the options positioning, not only for Nvidia, a lot of those call options as well as those put options are now being closed out, kind of unlocking a little bit of that pressure. And you're having the same actually happen with the S&P 500 as well as the NASDAQ options. We are going to see a kind of a rebalancing day in the options front. Today, we also have Friday's expiration to be mindful of here, but not really too concerned about where the market is at. If you're looking at the market breadth overall, we are still seeing more stocks in the green than in the red for the S&P. The earnings from Nvidia was great. Obviously, the guidance was also great, but the market is now kind of used to Nvidia having these beat and raise type of quarters, and they would love to see something more. But I think, once again, it kind of became a little bit more of a non-event and more of a premium sellers type of an event rather than premium buyers, especially to the call side. So overall, we're just kind of seeing a realignment. Keep your eye out on the software names, though. Software is actually doing relatively well today. CRM, Salesforce, pushed to the downside after their earnings announcement. It's now up 3%. If we look at Workday, their earnings announcement the other day was not really that great. Workday's up another 5.5% today as well. So you are seeing a rotation, Microsoft catching a bit as well. There's a lot that's actually happening under the hood. Even though the headline might seem a little bit scary, I think this is actually the best thing that you could actually have for an index trader that's looking for an upside move. Unlock some of this options gamma pressure that we've been seeing over the last couple of weeks. Let the market kind of float a little bit freely. I think that's what we're getting right now.
Great earnings, but not great enough for the street, still seems.
Yeah, I mean, this is sort of, I feel like, a very recurrent narrative now, that you go into these earnings and it's always that, yeah, Nvidia is going to beat the consensus on Wall Street. It's not going to top the loftiest of projections, and then investors are going to be disappointed, and that's exactly what we're seeing this time around. But just in terms of the numbers, so they're saying that the fiscal first quarter sales are going to be about $78 billion. That was ahead of, as I said, analyst projections. The average was for 72.8. So quite a big gap there, but the loftiest was around $80 billion, so you're just shy of that. In terms of what we saw in the fourth quarter, again, the numbers were strong here. You can see there, well, that's the first quarter forecast, but also in the fourth quarter as well, revenue climbing 73%, coming in just over $68 billion. Profit, $162 a share. Again, that's better than what analysts had been projecting. In terms of where this money is coming from, of course, it's really that data center unit. It continues to be the major driver. Actually, we saw a little bit of weakness in the gaming division, which is interesting because revenue or sales there fell a little bit short of projections, which probably would have been a big deal a few years ago. But you're talking about, you know, $4 billion of revenue versus $60 billion plus for the data unit side. So it just very much pales in comparison, of course.
Yeah, the law of big numbers. And, you know, the relationship of the markets and the stock has certainly changed over the last 4 quarters. Talk to us about China and what their assumptions remain, or have they changed their assumptions in the China business?
Not really too much, essentially. I think they're just, it's still really just that big unknown for the business. Because AMD in their latest results, for instance, you actually saw them getting a little bit of revenue from China, but that was because they were selling much older technology. They haven't actually sold any newer chips as well, AMD, but Nvidia is still making no assumptions around China data center revenue in their first quarter sales outlook. They actually had a separate filing to the exchange where they did say that they've essentially been greenlit from the Washington side to start some small-scale sales of H200 chips to China. But I think the big caveat here is exactly still around how Beijing responds and will they allow companies to make these purchases. So, yeah, as Nvidia said in their earnings to date, they haven't generated any revenue under the H200 licensing program, and they don't know yet whether any imports will be allowed into the country as well.
Yeah, I mean, nothing but flattery and, sort of positive views coming from the Dan Iveses and the Stacey Ragsons of the world. It's just not being reflected in the stock. Obviously, perhaps something more technical at play with respect to this pullback we're seeing. Marley, thanks so much for getting us across the details of what the sell side's saying today. Let's trade it now with Joe Tigay, portfolio manager of the Rational Equity Armor Fund. Joe, I mean, Nvidia just continues to lose steam here, down 5.4% right now. Just talk us through an example trade on this one.
Yeah, what an interesting move. One of the greatest quarters you'd ever see for a company, and just getting hammered. Now, this is coming off of the heels of being at close to record highs. 212 is the all-time high, reached, I think that was late last year for Nvidia, but absolutely a great quarter. And there's been a lot of other companies that have had great quarters, which were not necessarily rewarded this cycle. So yeah, some volatility is coming in, the price is coming in. Just looking at some upside calls, especially call spread, seems very prudent to me. I do kind of think it's good the market's having some rotations back and forth. Maybe some of the harder hit areas, like the software names, are doing comparatively better today than the growth and the semiconductor names are doing today. So interesting to see that even though the semiconductors are proving their pudding with their fantastic earning, they're not necessarily getting rewarded with the price. I think that'll return to form as long as we can continue to climb this wall of worry, which we will if things can stabilize and the economy remains stable too. So just looking at an upside call spread, very simply, month of March, 200, 220 would be my strikes. Just a little bit ago, the price was close to 330, probably a little lower as Nvidia continues to drip a little bit lower as the trading day moves on.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing the technology sector under pressure. I mean, obviously, we are seeing a degree of rotation there. I mean, the softwares aren't getting pulled down. But, I mean, is this, to your mind, an Nvidia story or a broad type of chip story, a sort of AI valuation, show me the money story?
Yeah, it's definitely a valuation story. Absolutely right. It's not about the earnings, because the earnings were there. The earnings were everything that Street could have looked for, hoped for, dreamed of. They got it with the Nvidia report. They're just saying, we're not going to continue to pay this high of a multiple. We're going to let you grow into that multiple, which Nvidia is doing. We've seen about 4 months of sideways action, really, in the S&P 500. We're starting to coil up here. It seems like something's getting ready to break. We're going to be looking for a move soon. And, hopefully it's to the upside, but we'll be ready if it's to the downside too.
Although, Ben, I mean, the way you set it up in terms of this undisprovable idea that the hyperscalers may have to throttle back on spending, it kind of counters the idea that Nvidia was sheltered from the troubles of the hyperscalers or the burdens on them or the worse earnings, kind of quality of those companies, because Nvidia down the road is going to be subject to whatever vulnerabilities show up in those business models.
Well, potentially. I mean, the thing about NVIDIA that's actually good is they have exposure to Anthropic now and OpenAI as well. If they happen to win and the hyperscalers lose, they will get a lot of that exposure. Obviously, sovereign AI is in the early innings. Governments have to invest in this. They can't let all these LLMs and whatever, run their lives, especially certain nations. So I think that I think NVIDIA, obviously has a lot of other potential levers. I think, though, in general it's very hard right now for the buy side to, in their mental DCF, underwrite the cash flows for NVIDIA's customers in the 2030s. Nobody knows. And so I think that as we figure out what's happening with agents, though, it's so explosive what we've seen since the launch of OpenClaw. Like, I know it sounds like hyperbole sometimes when Jensen says it, but the amount of compute that these agents are going to consume, and the TAM is really labor, guys. So a lot of people say, oh, the TAM is really this CapEx. The TAM is labor, and it's really scary. And Jensen has to thread a needle on that, of course. But like, if you look at all the labor and the trillions of labor that can transfer to software and tokens, NVIDIA is still going to benefit from that. Now, the question is, how do we get from point A to point B along the way? And there's a lot of doubt. But if you look at the TAM of labor and how much has to shift to NVIDIA's market cap, it's still pretty overwhelmingly good.
Right. Well, it's interesting how you put that in terms of him threading the needle and not saying that we're going to have a jobs apocalypse. Something else he seemed to do, and I'm curious to get your point. I know you don't cover a lot of software companies or software related, but you cover a few. He's basically defending and saying, no, they're not going to be impacted. In fact, their business is going to be just fine. Do you agree with that?
Sort of. No, I don't really agree with that. I think that if you parse his words, look, we've been saying AI could eat software for a couple of years now, and we've been on your network, and we're obviously seeing a dead cat bounce right now, and And that's understandable because everybody had the same trades on for the near term. But I think that if you really think about it, he's saying the tools won't go away, like Cadence and Synopsys, tools won't go away. But if you thread the needle on what he's saying software moves to tokens, okay? Software moving to tokens means we're moving to a consumption model, not a seat model. Are you telling me that all these SaaS guys are going to make that transition to consumption and outcomes without missing a few quarters? Are you kidding me? So this is a really tough transition for the SaaS guys as the economics go to consumption that's going up and to the right and towards the semis guys.
We've seen the street's reaction here coming from investors. We've run through the technical reaction and what we're seeing here with KG and Nate Peterson, but just talk us through what the sell side is saying about that.
Sure, Sam, and good morning to you. Yes, the sell side still seeing a positive growth here. Really impressed with the numbers we got. Really impressed with the guidance that we got, despite this move to the downside that we're seeing. Just a quick reminder on some of the numbers here. Earnings per share at $1.62, better than the $1.53 expected. Revenue of $68.13 billion, better than the $66.21 that was expected. Total revenue was up 73% year over year. The company gets 91% of its sales now from its data center unit, and revenue in the data center business climbed 75% from the year earlier to $62.3 billion. Guidance better than expected. Their revenue for the fiscal first quarter will be $78 billion plus or minus 2%. Analysts were looking for $72.6 billion, and China is not included in that forecast, so only potential upside from there. But as far as the response, you're going to hear me cite some of those things in these notes. Nvidia, Wedbush has raised their price target to $300, up from $230. Right now, we're trading at about $185. Wedbush keeping its outperform rating, saying that they say while they see the Q4 acceleration in data center sales was impressive given the law of large numbers, it would call out Q1 sales guidance in particular as being the highlight of the call, given that Wedbush believes that this outlook was well in excess of prior buy-side expectations. At Rosenblatt, they've also got a new $300 price target, keeping that buy rating. They said that the firm sees Nvidia, quote, overcame many concerns, including GPU capacity, tensor processing unit capacity, memory supply, and customer financing. Rosenblatt saying that they see the company continuing to lead in AI market development. 300 really the number today, Sam, to another one from Bernstein, up to 300, keeping that outperform rating. Data center well above expectations on Blackwell momentum. That's what they cited in their note. B of A also up to 300. They're keeping a buy rating as well. They said the company, quote unquote, more than delivered. They say supply commitments are over 3 times up year over year to $95 billion, ensuring Nvidia, quote, may well be the most dependable supplier that can serve the AI market that we believe could double towards $1.4 trillion in the next 4 years. Citi also raising to 300, keeping a buy rating. They think that their GPU technology conference, their GTC conference in mid-March, will be positive for shares. JP Morgan going up to 265 from 250, keeping an overweight rating. They said that their forward estimates on its better than expected revenues allowed them to increase their estimates there. And they think any concerns over the company's 2027 growth outlook are likely overblown. And then the last one, Morgan Stanley, they're up to 260 from 250 on, quote, another very strong quarter. So all bulls there, Sam.
And chip giant Nvidia reporting better than expected fourth quarter results. It was driven by revenue growth of 75% in its core data center business. That's a business that's very important to Nvidia. They control about 95% of that market. They see profit margins or gross margins of 75%. They are the 800-pound gorilla and then some when it comes to all of this. And we spoke with Nvidia's CEO, Jensen Huang, about that revenue growth and AI chip demand first on CNBC.
Demand is really strong and it's diverse. It's coming from all over the place. At the core of it, Becky, what's happening is that AI just went through its third inflection. The first one was 2 years ago with ChatGPT. And then the second one was about a year ago when the reasoning AI agents came out, reasoning AI systems came out. And the number of tokens, the amount of computing demand that it needed to be able to reason and produce all the excellent answers that these chatbots were doing was really sky high. And then now with these agentic systems, we're now having these agents able to reason, take tasks, and actually do work. And so the agentic systems are doing incredibly well all over the world. Of course, you've heard how Claude Code and OpenAI's Codex are doing incredibly well in companies all over the world in software programming, but it's starting to spread out into all these different other types of tasks. And so at the core, it's because AI has gone through a new inflection point and the amount of computing demand is off the charts.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your customers, too, because you did say that the big companies, the big hyperscalers, actually increased the amount of spending. And I think they make up about half of the spending that went into the data center segment in particular. But you said the other customers were growing really quickly, and that's where so much of the growth came from. Who are those other customers?
You know, most people see AI as a chatbot. And it's understandable because OpenAI is so popular and they're doing so well. And we hear a lot about Claude Code. But remember, AI is about a new way of doing software and affects every single industry. NVIDIA is really fortunate in the sense that we are the computing platform, the accelerated computing platform for every cloud, for any model, as well as every different domains of science. And so we're seeing success, whether it's in small cloud service providers regionally around the world. It could be an enterprise. Our big partnership with Lilly. We have many others. Car companies that are building autonomous vehicles. The robo-taxi era is coming. And so there's a whole bunch of computing being built for that. Scientific computing is being completely revolutionized by artificial intelligence. And so, you know, the number of industries that are affected by AI, because AI is fundamentally a new way of doing software, is going to be very broad-based. And that's one of the reasons why I say AI is a new industrial revolution, because every single company is affected, every industry will be transformed, and every country will power it. And so it's broad-based.
Again, though, you talk about their market share of that data center chips, 95%. The estimates run from 90 to 98%, but about 95%. And when you have margins like that, 75%, it's obviously a market that lots of others want to get involved with. You did hear earlier this week about AMD cutting a deal with Meta. That's supposed to be a multi-year deal that they're going to be looking at as well. You have all kinds of competitors who are trying to get in on that, but you also have Nvidia kind of running as fast as they can. The new chips that are going to be rolled out, they talked about those new chips that are coming, Vera Rubins. That will be the second half of this fiscal year, and that is the way that they are planning to try and keep some of that market share. We'll show you more excerpts from this interview a little later today, just talking about the competition they're facing, talking about what he sees with the SaaS apocalypse, or whatever you want to call this, just where those SaaS companies are really under pressure, because you also heard a report last night from Salesforce. That stock was trading a little lower on some of these questions, but we'll get Jensen's take on whether this is overdone in the market.